Say Anything is back. They have a brand new album, Is Committed, and this new album, it's something. Before I dive into the album, I need to do a quick recap of everything that's happened with Say Anything, because trust me, when I say that this new album needs context, I mean it. I think most people first heard of Say Anything because of their album Is a Real Boy. It's the band's most popular album and the album that put the band on the map. Say Anything mixed emo with pop punk, with irony, spoken word, a lot of sarcasm, and a lot of theatrics. The song Admit It is probably the best example of that. I mean, Is a Real Boy was originally supposed to be a rock opera before lead singer Max Bemis scrapped the idea. But Is a Real Boy is still not written from the band's own experiences. The album is a story. Max Bemis clarified that in a recent interview he did with New Noise, saying, Bemis adds that the things he was saying in previous work had to be forced. The things I said on Is a Real Boy are a stretch. Every man has a Molly is not true. But as I was doing more research, I saw this quote from Max when he was doing press right before the band's next album, In Defense of Genre, came out. So in this interview, he's talking about how In Defense of Genre is more observations of other people, unlike Is a Real Boy's lyrical content, which revolved around him and his problems. So honestly, I don't know where the truth is here, but the New Noise quote is the one that's the most recent. And even with all that, I still think Alive with the Glory of Love is one of the best emo or pop punk songs of all time. After Is a Real Boy, the band released In Defense of Genre, a 27-song double album that featured a lot of prominent people in the scene. Hayley Williams of Paramore, Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance, Adam from Taking Back Sunday, Matt Skiba of Alkaline Trio, and many more. After In Defense of Genre, Say Anything released their self-titled album, which might actually be my favorite Say Anything album. It's probably the band's most straightforward pop-punk album. After the self-titled in 2008, the next few albums are all a little weird. Anarchy, My Dear was Say Anything's attempt to write a, quote, true punk record, but it really didn't work, and no one talks about that album. Maybe they talk about Admit It again, but that's about it. Hebrews was the next album, and early on there were a lot of rumors and reports that the album was going to have no guitars, and it was going to be even closer to a rock opera than Is a Real Boy. The album featured a lot of guests, members of Blink-182, Me Without You, the Get Up Kids, Manchester Orchestra, Every Time I Die, and a lot more people participated. For such a different sounding album, Hebrews was generally pretty well received. I Don't Think It Is was the next album, and this is actually the most punk sounding that Say Anything has ever sounded. The biggest thing from this album is that Kanye West, yes, Kanye West listened to it and it got his approval, whatever that's worth. How close do you think we were to Kanye West being on a Say Anything song? I can't even picture that in my head. Then in 2018, Say Anything broke up, and we got the band's last album, Oliver Appropriate. So with this album, the band went back to writing an album from a character's perspective, in this case, Oliver. And Oliver would be the boy from Is a Real Boy. Oliver Appropriate would be a sequel catching up with Oliver years after all the events and everything that happened on Is a Real Boy. I actually like this album. It's the most stripped back Say Anything has ever been. It has a lot of acoustic guitars, and it's also the band's shortest album, with a lot of songs being just over 2 minutes. And if that was the last Say Anything album, I think everybody would have said, okay, Say Anything, go take a bow, and enjoy the time off. But no, that didn't happen. And we have the brand new Say Anything album, Is Committed. But why did they reunite? Max Bemis did an interview with the Aquarian, which I highly recommend you read. I'll sum it up. Basically, Max was dealing with loneliness, a midlife crisis, a personal family issue, and he needed the creative outlet that is Say Anything. This is what he said about the new album in that interview. By making a parody of a Say Anything record, it was the only reason I was able to do this in a healthy way. I needed to have this kind of experience. It was both a parody and completely serious. Everything I say on the record is kind of literal for the first time. Then he says this later on in the interview, it's as literal and metaphorical as a Say Anything record can get. Even after reading the entire interview, I'm still not sure, just like on Is a Real Boy, what's real on this new album or what's metaphorical. There is one more thing we need to talk about before we dive into the album, and that's the lyrics. The lyrics are very sexual. Obviously, everyone knows that the band's most popular song is Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too, but the lyrics on this new album are that song times 10. Max talked about the sexual lyrics on the album in his interview with the Aquarian, but I have to blur some words out because of YouTube, so I will have everything linked down in the description if you want to read it yourself. To be honest, I don't even know if I can show you the entire track list, or even some of the lyrics, but I will do my best. If something is blurred out, that's just because that's what YouTube wants. Let's start with the first song, Be Children, Introduction to the Reunion Record. And the lyrics here I think really do sum up what Max was feeling going into this album. The record that changed your life, somehow I'm the one who needs it now. Max is saying that, the older Say Anything albums have helped so many people, that now this album is committed. That's what Is a Real Boy was for some fans. He needs the music now. But after that, the album kind of goes off the rails. When I said that this album has a lot of sexual lyrics, I mean it. So I'm going to put some on screen now. And again, if I have to blur some of the words, that's because of YouTube. I don't even know if I can repeat the actual lyrics because of YouTube. So here's just some of the lyrics from the album. Yeah, like I said, the lyrics on this album are pretty interesting. Throughout the entire album, the band does do a lot of references to older songs, or they reference other bands in the scene and stuff like that. So if you're a hardcore, die-hard Say Anything fan, I think you are going to enjoy listening to this album, the entire thing. But if you're a casual fan, I would probably suggest you just check out Are You In There? That's probably the most straightforward, rock and roll, emo, pop punk song on the album. I'm not sure if Daisy is referring to the brand new album because that opens up an entire can of worms. The song is definitely about the emo and pop punk scene, but I couldn't find any interview where Max is talking specifically about this song. Then the album ends with 2 9-minute songs, because of course it does. The song Woman Song is... I can't even explain it, so I'll put the quote where Max is talking about this song on screen, so feel free to pause. But basically, Max is playing the song while his daughter sleeps in the same room, and it's a very emotional, all over the place 9-minute song. Yeah, this song is all over the place, and like Max said in that quote, this song is his attempt or his idea of a parody of a stereotypical ballad emo song, and then about 6 minutes in, the music stops and it just becomes a conversation with Max and somebody else, where he starts talking about the emo scene, and he references different bands and different people, Travis Barker, Jimmy Eat World, Touche Amore, and the song ends with Max explaining that, yes, this song is long because it's 9 minutes, but he's gonna play a joke on the audience who's listening because the next song, the last song on the album, is even longer. But that's not true, because the last song on the album is 8 minutes and 48 seconds, and the song before that, Woman Song, is 9 minutes and 10 seconds. Did you get all that? So, the new Say Anything album is committed. Does it work as a parody of a emo album or a pop punk album? I don't think so. If we're gonna say that Say Anything just makes, parody albums of the scene, I think Is a Real Boy would obviously be the choice. It's a very popular album. A lot of people love that album. It's the most popular album from Say Anything. So I don't know why the band felt that they had to make another parody of an emo album, because you have Is a Real Boy. Then we know the band themselves said that Oliver Appropriate is a sequel to Is a Real Boy, which is a parody of an emo album. So the new album, Is Committed, would be like the third album in the trilogy of a parody of an emo album, with Is a Real Boy, Oliver Appropriate, and now Is Committed. So I guess if nothing else, it's an ambitious thing that I don't think has ever happened before in the emo pop punk scene. So I guess that makes the new album interesting, if nothing else. Honestly, I'm not even sure how to sum up the entire album. I think you just have to go listen to it yourself. I'll link the 2 interviews that I used for this video down below, and I'll also link a post from the Say Anything subreddit where they kind of go through and go by every song, and they took quotes from Max, and you can kind of read along, and I think that's a good, concise way to, when you're listening to the album, to really try to understand what's going on. If you're a longtime Say Anything fan, please let me know what you thought of the album. I think the album works a lot more if you have some kind of context, which I try to provide in this video, but if you're a longtime Say Anything fan, I think you might enjoy this album more than a casual fan would. Please like the video, it really helps me out. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I talk about emo, pop, punk, and punk rock, all that kind of stuff on the channel, so if you're not subscribed, please do, and thanks for watching.